All right, here we go. We're live. Welcome to what do we call it? Remote learning. You kids aren't, you teachers, you kids, you aren't in school today, and I'm with Terry Trueman today. He is Terry. Tell us where you are. Where are you sitting right now? What town in America, in the world, are you in right now?
I'm in Spokane, Washington. Only it's pronounced Spokane, Washington. It's spelled Spokane, but it's pronounced Spokane. I'm in Spokane, Washington, where the Gonzaga Bulldogs, who would have won the NCAA national title this year, but it got canceled, they would have won it for sure. That's where they live too.
Well, thank you for coming on. So a couple of weeks ago, I decided, Terry, to have my author buddies on. Everyone I could think of that I, run into on the road. People that visit a lot of schools, people that go to conferences, authors that I run into. So I thought, hey, since none of us are in school, we all had our schools canceled. Why don't we do a show? So thank you for coming on.
No, I'm happy to be here because, as you know, I was kind of retired from the road. So this is a great opportunity to talk to people.
So here's what happened, all you fans out there. I got introduced to Terry somewhere. I think it was in Warrensburg,
Sounds
Missouri.
right. Before I was banned from that particular conference.
So Terry had a really interesting book that I read called Stuck in Neutral, and he'll talk about that in a few minutes. So when people come up to me and they say, oh, I want to write a book. Oh, I want to write a book. Oh, I want to become a writer. Oh, I want to get published. When people say that to me, I tell them, you got to read Stuck in Neutral, because then you'll understand, I think, what it's like to be a writer. Because when I read that book, it was so different and so unique, I think, from anything I had ever read before. I thought, wow, this guy really did something. So there you go. There's my compliment of the day, Terry.
It's great. Thank you.
So Terry speaks to an older crowd than me. I'm really a preschool K to 5th grade guy. Like when people say to me, who are your books for? I usually say I'm a K5 guy. So Terry, what would you say? What would you say? By the way, I'm in Boston. Terry's in Spokane. And for people who wonder, have I ever been in Spokane? Yes, I did, like 6 weeks of schools in Spokane, maybe more. And of course, I ended up having dinner at your house, and that was great. But okay, so which age group do you think would you call your books?
Well, I always kind of ponderously and arrogantly said, I don't really write for teens. That's who my books are marketed for, but that's not who I write for. I write for smart readers. That if you like my book, you're probably smart. And if you don't get it or don't like it, you're probably stupid. So that was easy for me, whether you're 9 years old, a smart 9-year-old or a 10-year-old could get it, because it was marketed for that and edited for that group. But Stuck in Neutral is based on the birth and brain injury of my son Sheehan. And he was badly brain injured or had a genetic condition. We've never been sure about that. At his birth, shortly after his birth, we discovered that he was profoundly developmentally disabled. So after 10 years, 15 years of feeling extraordinarily sorry for myself, I eventually sat down and wrote a long narrative poem about Sheehan, because I was first a poet. And then I wrote the novel Stuck in Neutral. So that's a way long-winded answer to your question. Have we only got an hour or so? Because I want to tell you about my childhood too.
Hey, is the cover of the book right there?
Yeah. But if I could show you, I might lose the spot where I was going to read it. You see that okay?
Yeah. So that's how you spell his name, Terry Trueman, Stuck in Neutral. I think it's a book certainly every 6th grader should read, but what do I know?
Well, yeah, and I think every
grown-up should read it.
Yeah,
every I've given that book to, they thank me. They just never stop thanking me for it. So
back to your book, Jerry. What your books do is teach kids a reverence. That might be, you might not like that, where you might think it's too big, with humor and with sincerity. You teach kids a reverence for nature, for animals, for history, for the way the world really is. If you don't set up that curiosity in them, coming them through the read word, reading the words, if you don't set up that curiosity, there's not going to be any readers for Stuck in Neutral or Grapes of Wrath or Harry Potter books or anything else. They have that age. Remember, every person I think can remember when they started to learn to read. And it was books like your great books. You and Marie Sendak, the best. You too.
Well, you're too kind to me, but
Yeah, I
that's
am.
great.
I've always been too kind to you.
But so tell us some more about your career. Was that your first book?
It was my first novel, published by a big New York publisher. HarperCollins published it, and they published 6 more books after that, 7 altogether. But it was the first. I mean, I was 50 years old and had been a total flop in pretty much everything in my life. I've been fired from almost every job I ever had. Proudly, I never wanted to do anything but sit home and type, and kind of be handsome. So
let's go back further though. Let's say you're in 5th grade. Did you think I'm a writer? When you were in 8th grade, did you think I'm a writer?
No, I thought I was a clown. I thought I was like a clown, not with the nose and stuff and the big funny shoes, but I was always just entertaining. I remember literally in 5th grade when our class was being noisy, the teacher would say, if everybody quiets down for the next 10 minutes, I'll let Terry do a skit. She never asked me. It wasn't set up. She didn't know what I was going to do. She had me come up in front of the class and improvise some sort of funny faces and gorilla stuff, and the kids would all laugh, and that would be a reward. So I've always been a show off and an extrovert and ADD.
Now, did you ever do stand up?
No. I a lot of times I was asked that based on my presentations, because I think I have a natural skill set at that, being kind of witty and quick and kind of funny and confident. But the writing thing panned out by the time I was only 50. So, why would I do anything else?
Yeah. Well, go ahead. Tell us about your books. I can tell you that I remember the sequel to Stuck in Neutral, and I remember a really, really cool book, I think called
I was supposed to have all these books lined up properly so I could get them, but I didn't quite manage it. But this is a companion novel to Stuck in Neutral.
Yeah.
It's supposed
Control.
to be, yeah. And in the story Stuck in Neutral, he has a brother Paul and a sister Cindy, and of course his mother and father are divorced and separated. But Cruise Control is told from the point of view of Sean, the main character of Stuck in Neutral, his brother's Paul's point of view. And that's kind of like Paul on the cover of this one. And Paul's the opposite of Sean. He has total control of his body, straight A student, quarterback of the football team, point guard on the basketball team, and a raging, terrible kind of anger, almost homicidal anger inside himself, that his brother turned so messed up, that his father left the family, all these issues going on. So 12 years after those 2 books came out, this book, Life Happens Next, was published. And this is a genuine sequel. So there's 3 books. A lot of Amazon and other places online put them as a series. They aren't really a series. Stuck in Neutral and Cruise Control are companion novels set in the same exact time frame from 2 different points of view. Yeah. And Life Happens Next is what happens next in the families and the characters' lives. They're all, by the way, Jerry, heartbreaking works of staggering genius, as you know.
I would say that I give you a lot of credit, because I think you did something that hadn't been done before, which is, so for the audience out there, Stuck in Neutral is a novel where he puts a voice on a kid who's totally disabled. When you go to a school and there's a kid who's he's in a wheelchair and he can't talk and he can't walk, and the nurse or the assistant teacher has to take care of him full time. So Stuck in Neutral is actually this kid Sean, and you put a voice on the kid.
Right.
You want to explain? Is that something you were going to do later? Or did I blow something for you?
No, not in the least. It took us a long time to come to that. I mean, I started writing the novel that became Stuck in Neutral. First, I wrote this long narrative poem about being the father of a kid like Sean, my father of Sheehan. I wrote this long narrative poem. In fact, this is what that original version of that looked like.
So was that the first thing that was published, or was that came later?
This was the first thing published about 1992 or 93. And it's a narrative poem. You want to not make money? Write a long 44-page long narrative poem about a kid with a profound developmental disability and his dad being sad about it. You will not make money, I promise you. You never have to worry about it. You'll have eternal tax write-offs or something like that, I guess.
Did you make more money than the Vegetable Alphabet book? Do you think it made more money than the Vegetable Alphabet?
I can't imagine anything making more money than the Vegetable Alphabet book, Jerry, or any of your other classic works.
Yes.
But so I wrote that narrative poem, and then many years later, I finally came to the idea to, in fact, the original Sheehan, the original Stuck in Neutral novel that I sent in to the agent who accepted it and sold it eventually to HarperCollins. Antonia Marquette, my editor there, bought it and worked with me on it. Originally, it was supposed to be the father telling the story, Sean's story, in Sean's voice, from the father imagining what Sean might be like.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
We quickly got rid of that literary device, and he said, let's just have it in Sean, have him tell the story inside his mind and tell it just between Sean and the reader. And that was, I think, largely Toni Marquette's idea. She's a genius.
Yes.
My editor.
So did you fight that when they first said to you, we're going to have the book be in the voice of the kid, not the voice of the dad? When you first did that, did you think they were out of their minds?
Jerry, when you're getting your first novel published at 50, you don't fight anything. I had a real strong storyline in the part I'd like to read a little part of it to you later, but in the part, there's a strong secondary theme, secondary story going on where Sean falls in love with this beautiful girl who is a friend of his sister's, who comes to the house for sleepovers and things. And he has this dream about her that I'm going to read to you. But in the original version, that was a very strong element of the story. And Toni Marquette, my editor, said, no, this is a story about the boy and his dad and about his life. Would you be willing to cut a third of the book? Again, I was 50 years old, getting my first novel published by a major New York publisher. I said, what third? Every third word? Any third you want me to, anything you want me to do, I'll do. Anything. Except I wouldn't have let Sean come, oh, Dada, I'm okay now. Let's play golf. I wouldn't have put that ending on it. I wasn't going to let that happen. But anything else I was willing to work with him on.
Yeah. So anyone out there listening to the show, he puts a voice on this kid. Do I ruin the book by saying how smart the kid is?
No.
So when people look at the kid in the wheelchair who can't walk, can't talk, they think he's really disabled, right?
Yeah.
But in fact, in the book, he's really intelligent and he knows everything that's going on around in his life. And he has opinion of all the people that meet him and everyone in his sphere, right?
Yeah, and I think another strength of that is that he's 14 years old and he reacts to people the way any average, normal, quote unquote, healthy, quote unquote, abled kid would react. He happens to be heterosexual, so he finds girls, he gets excited about girls. He's very witty and quick, so he's always being sarcastic about adults that are around him. And what somebody pointed out to me, the thing that makes Sean so special is every kid feels like nobody understands me. Every 14-year-old ever born goes through a phase of thinking, my parents don't understand me. Nobody really understands me, because nobody does understand anybody else. It's all just guessing, to try to figure out what other people are really feeling and thinking. But Sean really is his situation. That's his existential position in the world, that nobody has any idea that he's in there and that he's smart and that he has regular kind of feelings like everyone else. So
yeah, that's a good way to put it. He's in there and he's smart. I couldn't think of a way to say it.
Yeah, no, but you brought it up, which I appreciate. It's good.
There's another book you wrote I really like about a bank robbery.
Yeah, Inside Out.
Yeah.
I want you to point out something. when your first novel gets published at 50 and nobody knows what it's going to do, you know, people, it's odd and it doesn't fit into any genre or category very well. They just kind of, they give you this, you know, kind of thing. Your name is kind of tiny up on the top. Terry Trueman, who cares? When after you win a big Printz Honor Book Award, like that book did, look at the size of the name on the next book. It's like, I don't know why they had to put the title or the kid's picture. Should have just all been Terry Trueman, a huge, but it almost was. Look how big the name is. So yeah, I like that book a lot too.
Anyone out there, I really, really enjoy reading Inside Out. The whole premise of the story is just amazing.
Well,
but
thanks.
you can say whatever you want. Was that based on a true story? Do you want me to tell people what the book's about, or do you want to tell them what the book's about?
You go ahead, and if you say anything wrong, I'll start crying and throw myself on the floor and kick my legs like a little child. Go ahead, I dare you.
Remember we had dinner once, me, you, and Roland Smith, and we decided that Roland was 14 years old, you were 12, and you said I was 8.
I don't remember it, but we would have been a very difficult trio of boys.
Of course, we were all in our 60s at the time, and we were.
yeah.
I think he was
some of the most fun times I ever had on the road were with you and Roland, and they weren't even X-rated or R-rated. They were just fun and funny, and you and Roland together are a force of nature.
So, in the book Inside Out, a kid who does he have Asperger's?
No, he has kind of adolescent onset schizophrenia. Asperger's, I don't think, have hallucinations, and
he's a kid who's a little what do they say today? He's on the spectrum somewhere. So that's what they would say today. But
they might, but he has hallucinations and delusions. He sees people that aren't really there, more like the movie A Beautiful Mind, or he's very Asperger's has. I mean, I think Andy Warhol was Asperger's. I think a lot of people have very high function. This kid, he has to separate what's real from what isn't real.
So he's in a bank with his mom. His mom's goes into a bank, right? And as they're in the bank, okay, you messed it up
already, Jerry. For crying out loud, he's in a coffee shop waiting for his mom to come pick him up, and all he wants in the world is a maple bar, which people on the East Coast don't know. It's just like a Dunkin' Donuts thing. All he wants is that, and these other two kids come in with guns to rob it. He can't tell if they're real or not. He looks around at the other people in the place. They all look scared, so he assumes they must be real. And then the story unfolds from there. It all pretty much takes place in this coffee shop with him trying to figure out what's real and what isn't, you know?
Don't they say, like, get on the floor? And he says, my mom always told me never get on the floor, you know?
Things like that,
Isn't the book like that? And then he was promised something like at 3:00, and it's now 3:00.
His mom's supposed to come pick him up, and then he gets to take his medicine. He gets to go home. Then he gets to have dinner and fight off Dirtbag and Rat, who are two hallucinations that he has. So wow, Roland Smith has lost a lot of weight. He's very handsome now. He's peeking in on us here.
I have a surprise for you. I decided
it's not a surprise anymore because I see Roland Smith up in the corner of my screen.
I have a surprise for you. I decided maybe in the middle of our talk, I would have Roland Smith, famous author from Portland, Oregon, come and I think he wants to interview and ask you a few questions.
Roland,
so I'm sorry to ambush you.
No,
Terry.
it's great. I love that.
I haven't had an ambush in my show yet, so I thought this would be a good thing to do.
I'm honored. It's hard to survive an ambush, but I'm ready.
The Zoom bomb.
Hi, Roland.
Hey, buddy. How are you?
I'm good. It's great to see you.
Yeah, it's my favorite poet, Terry Trueman.
Well, thank you.
As
you can see behind me, you can probably spot him. There's Jack's Run above, Zach's Lie, Sasquatch, all the Captain's Dog. They're all there.
They're all pretty thick.
They're thick. They're thick books.
Yeah, we keep your poetry books in our bathroom.
They're stuck in neutral, though.
Yeah.
114 rich pages.
Man, it's stuck in neutral.
Yeah.
So
So,
what have you been doing during this quarantine? Now that it's much different for you and for me, a little different for Jerry because he's more gregarious than we are. But what have you been doing?
Roland, almost everybody's more gregarious than you are. Gregarious doesn't leap to mind when we think of the Roland Smith. Smart, witty, genius, saved a species, eats whatever he wants, top shelf guy. That's Roland. Gregarious, save it for the 8-year-old.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
So what have I been doing? I retired from going on the road. It was really interesting because I got kind of banned and thrown out of almost every place that I went for kind of moral turpitude and bad conduct, which actually fit my entire lifetime pattern of employment and unemployment. So it worked out fine, but it also happened at an age where I didn't want to do it anymore anyway. You guys are road warriors. I got pretty tired of it. I just wanted to sit here in the basement, write what I wanted to write and do that. And as I was mentioning to Jerry earlier, I've got several Roland Smith poems, as you know. I usually send one to you when it strikes me. And you were such a great, important friend to me during that time of my life. It was just wonderful to know you. And you really were a mentor to me tremendously. Remember the time we got lost in that Decatur or someplace? Your GPS took us to where the school used to be. It was like the ghetto area. All there was like terrible, like not ghetto, like meth central. We're like going there. It's like scary place, very scary.
Exactly. I do remember. Now your office looks different. I've been to your office before. It looks good. Did you redo it?
No, Patty, she got down here. You can only fight them off so long, Roland, as you know from being married to the beautiful Marie. Eventually they get in and they, why don't you so I donated 540 of my autographed books to the Ted Hipple autographed book collection at University of South Florida. Remember how I used to buy a lot of books and get people to sign them? Like I said, a number of my favorites of yours are right. I'll show you. They're right here.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Independence Hall. Yeah, they're all there. Thunder Cave. A lot of my favorite ones from you are right there. Or if the inscription was like too good to let go of, I held on to it. But those books will eventually be permanently preserved at the Ted Hipple collection of autographed books at the University of South Florida. Because when I die, the rest of those books will go there, unless you want some back or something. So I've been writing poems for adults with covers like this. This one, I love this cover.
Oh, I don't have that one.
Well, I'll send it to you.
Let's see it again.
Last time I talked to you, yeah.
I'm better at saying I'll do stuff than do. That's another thing about you, Roland. Whenever you say you're going to do something, you actually do it. I don't understand that at all. It's so easy to say you're going to do something, then just not do it. Then you saved half your time.
Well, that's just because I don't say I'll do things very often, because then I know I have to do it. I just
egg salad sandwich.
get silent. They go, hey, could you do that? And you go.
Well, I should show them some of your books that are signed the way you sign them when you're doing a thing like at Warrensburg, where you have to sign 500 books. And I mean, it's a worse signature even than mine. It's just this. It looks like you had a pen and you sneezed, and that's it.
It's bad. Yeah. I had a woman one time.
It's a coronavirus, COVID-19 signature.
I was at a school one day and I was signing books all day, just doing my really crappy signature, and then there was a nighttime thing, and I'm signing, and this woman and her son get in line, and she plops my book down and she goes, "What is this?" That's my signature. She goes, "Ridiculous." She goes, "I didn't want to come and hear you tonight, but I came so you could actually sign the book." I signed it exactly the same way. And her kid was so mortified, she's kind of holding on to him. She's just really, So I signed it exactly the same way. And I said, "You want me to see it again?" I did it 3 times. I said, "There it is." That's how I signed the back of my checks.
I'm not surprised. The first time I met Roland, it was at a Pacific Northwest Booksellers thing, I think it was. and he bought me a refreshing beverage. Might have been a root beer or something. I don't recall exactly. A top shelf root beer. Yeah. And then the next time I met him was like a year later, and he's sitting on the porch of this Quality Inn or someplace. And I'm walking up, and he says, "Hi, Terry Trueman." And I go, "Hi." And he says, "You don't remember me, do you?" And I said, "No, yeah, no, kind of, no." And he goes, "I bought you a refreshing beverage a year ago in Portland, Oregon. I have 5 times more books published than you. I've been doing this 10 times longer than you. I saved a species, the red wolf. You will not forget me again." I didn't, but that's why that lady went after him. I paid her $12. Go demand a proper signature from Roland.
And I should mention that that's absolutely true.
The whole story. It's funny. If you tell people the true thing, it's always more ridiculous than the stuff we can make up, basically.
It was, and it was actually a martini, and it was a no host. It was a hosted bar, so I didn't actually pay for it, but I felt that I handed it.
I didn't know that. That's pretty funny.
Therefore, I did get you.
Right. So, Roland, I think you should ask Terry at least 2 serious writing questions. How about that?
Okay, here's one. So how much time a day do you spend in your office writing?
Well, writing poems now for adults, rather than novels. As you know, I don't think you write much poetry. You certainly understand very well how to write long narrative sort of stories. And I know the way you work, you write them by hand and in a moleskin journal, tiny print that only you can read. And then you transfer them over and do it that way. Now, I probably write, there are weeks where I'll write every day for several hours a day, but poems are easy to write. They either come quickly and I dash them down and put them down, or they don't come at all, and I do other things. So, but I'm here in my office, I'd say 6 or 7 hours a day every day. But writing poetry is different than writing narratives. You don't have to keep track of things. Bukowski one time said, to write a novel, you have to feel pretty good. You have to feel okay. You have to be kind of strong and go for it. For him, and he was a drunk, so I suppose that played into it too. But to write poems, you can always write poems, and that's true. I can always write a poem. Some of them are very short, only 3, 4, 5 lines. Some of them are longer. So that's how I work. When I used to write novels, I would work every day. I would reread and revise the chapter I'd written the day before. Then I'd write a new chapter, and then once I was through with the thing, 20 chapters, usually short, like you mockingly pointed out, my books are pretty skinny. I would go back and revise the whole thing, and I'd go through a minimum of 50 times, because as a poet, you're always super hyper alert to every single cadence of every sentence. Not that prose writers aren't as well, but prose writing novels is like building a house a brick at a time. Poetry is just like throwing a match to something and watching it burn. Oh, that's cool. That kind of thing, I guess. Pretty crummy metaphor, actually.
And your poetry books, which are all great, by the way, do you do those yourself? Do you publish them yourself? Do you send them in? What do you?
I work with a guy named Neil Clemens who edits the books and copy edits the books and designs the covers, and we split any money that we make off it, which hasn't happened yet. There hasn't been any money made. We managed to make enough to pay for a print run of about 20 copies of the book and the design and setup and printing of it. And then the bigger thing is we have it. It's all of them are available for paperback on demand or as ebooks on Amazon and maybe as some other places too. But I don't write them to make any money, and I don't make any money. And I was lucky enough with you may not know this, Roland, but my first novel won what's known as a Printz Honor Book Award.
I didn't know that.
Roland's always teased me about that, but because of that, largely because of that, and because it is a heartbreaking work of staggering genius, a really good novel. I made a fair amount of money off that book and the travel I got to do. You know how that thing works. So between that and
Terry,
yes.
I know you. Don't you think there's another novel in that bald head of yours? Like, is it going to come out of you one of these days? Like some new book?
I hope not.
I think there's some really cool book in there.
Well, the latest one I wrote is this one, The Kid Who Killed Cole Hart. And it's published by a small press that was just launching up here called Latah Books. And it's done well. It's on Ingram's and you know.
Is that a novel?
Yes, it's a young adult novel. I mean, as much as the other books are. It's actually, I don't need to talk about it very much, but it's actually the young Terry Trueman, 17 years old, meets the older Terry Trueman, who's probably in his late 40s or 50s, but he's made it already, like happened when I wrote Stuck in Neutral. And the two of them are riding in a Corvette car, my favorite kind of car. And as you can see from the cover, the car's upside down there.
Yeah.
That's because the kid driving the car flips it off the side of a road, and then they have a Roland Smith novel experience. They're trapped in this car upside down in the woods as it's getting cold and dark, and nobody knows they've gone this route. And they have this. The whole novel takes place with these two, an older successful author and a young wannabe writer trapped in this car together. I really like it. You know, I think if HarperCollins or some big New York publisher had been behind it, and they looked at it and helped me edit it, and we're very close with them, but they backed out. It's not, you know, fashion in kids reading has changed so much, you know, and so. But anyway, I'm proud of that book, and that might be the last. It's like my Old Man in the Sea. I'm glad to have written this. It kind of wraps up my writing career and my life as a writer, kind of. I'm satisfied with that. You know, writing novels is hard. I don't know how Roland has done it. So many books for so long. It's just because he's brilliant and persistent and dedicated. I've never been any of those things. Well, maybe brilliant, but not persistent.
I'm going to let you guys get back to your thing, and I'm going to order that book right now.
Oh no, I'll send it to you, Roland.
I'm going to order it. You'll never know.
Right now. I want to read that.
I'm going to do that right this second.
I love you, Roland. Thanks for ambushing me.
Roland, thank you for coming on.
My pleasure. I'll see you guys. I got to order.
See you, Roland. I'll call you soon.
Okay, later.
Okay, later.
Bye. How'd you like that surprise?
Oh, I loved it. Thank you, Jerry. That was really sweet to get
You have another book. I think it's called Hot Connor. You have another book called Hot Connor.
Only a Boston. Hot Connor. What? Hot Connor. You know, you're like the rural juror. What? Rural juror. Rural juror. The rural juror. Hot Connor. Yeah, I have a book called 7 Days of the Hot Connor.
7 days on the Hot Connor. Now,
You
Hot
skipped
Connor.
one. You skipped one. You skipped this one.
Hot Connor is No Return. I don't know that book.
Oh, it's really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was my fourth. Yeah. You don't know that one. I gotta send that to you. I'll send that to you.
All right. And then Hot Connor is third base, correct?
Correct. And in baseball jargon, the hot corner is third base. So
Right.
7 Days the Hot Corner kid. His best friend since the second grade, who has moved in with my protagonist, my main character, and his father, has moved in and is living with them because his best friend's parents have kicked the best friend kid out of the house. Turns out he's gay, and my third baseman is totally freaked out. He's pretty homophobic. He doesn't like his best friends since the second grade being gay, and he's also in a championship baseball season. He doesn't need this distraction of everybody maybe finding out, and so the story unfolds from there. And the main character goes in and gets an AIDS test because he got his friend's blood all over his hands in a batting cage incident at some point. So he's sure he must have AIDS because the kid's gay. It was written back, 10, 12 years ago.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
So I knew all about Hot Connor from going to
Hot Connor.
when you and I went to a Red Sox Yankees game.
Oh yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. But it was the Yankees. You gave Patty and I tickets to that game. Remember the picture of me behind the post?
Yeah.
There was one empty seat in all of the one
Fenway
empty.
Park has poles in the middle of nowhere. So
Yeah, but there was one empty seat in all of Fenway, and it was a pole right directly in front of the seat, and it was empty. So as
I
we were
meant
going,
to bring that picture, but I forgot.
but
I forgot
that
to
wasn't
bring
my
it.
seat. But I sat behind the pole like this with my Red Sox hat that Jerry had given me, and there's a pic. And my wife Patty has her hand on me, like, "Come on, honey, let's go. Let's get you out of here now." So no, that was a great event. We watched that. That was wonderful. Fenway Park.
Yes, Fenway Park.
With,
Well, Terry, it's I think we're gonna wrap it up. Unless you have something special you'd love to say. Oh, you're gonna read a section. Excuse me.
we can wrap it up.
I think you should read a section of your book.
All right. I think I've lost it because I closed the cover. I should be able to find it real quickly, though. Yeah. Wow, it's like a miracle. So, as Jerry's pointed out, I'll set this up. Sean, the main character who's telling the story from inside himself because he can't communicate at all, he has met his sister Cindy's best friend, Allie, who he's fallen instantly in love with, although there's no way he could tell her or that she could know. So he goes to bed that night and he has this amazing dream about her. And he wakes up the next day. In fact, I think I'll read the end of the dream. That's the part I'll read. I dream about Allie. I'm alone with her and we begin to kiss. It feels great. Even though we don't know each other, somehow we're in love. I wonder where we are. The room doesn't seem familiar. I think about where I'd like to be. And an instant later, we are sitting on the top of the Space Needle in downtown Seattle, 600 feet above the city. Our legs dangle over the side. We face east, looking out past the hills, up into the mountains. The sun is rising over the tallest peaks of the Cascades. The horizon, the huge length of it, is blazing in pink, red, and orange. The mountains look purple and blue, the snow tinted by the colors. There's such a huge feeling to this sunrise, like all the universe spreads out from the light and the entire universe looks back towards it. God, this is beautiful, Allie says. We sit holding each other, the morning's first light covering us. Allie whispers, "It's so beautiful." "I love you," I say to Allie. She is the first girl I've ever said these words to. And even though I'm only a kid, even though I'm young and inexperienced, and I know it would sound stupid and corny, I almost add, "Darling." "I love you too," Allie whispers back. Then she pulls herself close to me. It feels as though we are blending together. I can't tell where I end and she begins. Then Allie says, "I love you, my darling." Suddenly, even though I know that I am only dreaming, I feel so loving, I feel so loved that I begin to cry. When I wake up, there's a fly on my face. So that's Sean's dream life versus Sean's reality. When there's a fly on his face, he can't control his arms, hands. He can't control blinking his eyes. He can't do anything to protect himself from nature. And so he lives in these two worlds, one inside his mind and his heart and his soul, and the one where he is just floating in the world like all of us are, not quite as easy to victimize as Sean would be. So thanks for having me on, Jerry.
Thank you. By the way, everyone out there, I hope you enjoyed Terry. I can honestly say every time I've been with Terry, I just love talking to him. He's so interesting. And I forgot, I have one little message. Tomorrow we're going to have Michael Salinger and Sarah Holbrook. Sarah and Michael are poets, and Sarah's written a few novels. They're, once again, road buddies that I meet. Do you know them? Do you know Sarah Holbrook and Michael Salinger?
I was going to say something cruel about them, even though I don't know them at all. But I'm going to get off while I still haven't really messed up too bad. I even said refreshing beverage, and Roland went with the martini. That wasn't my fault.
So Michael Salinger and Sarah Holbrook, we'll see you tomorrow. Terry, we can't thank you enough for today, and everybody out there.
It was great. Thanks, Jerry. See you later.
We love writing children's books. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.